Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So, like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate it. I'm here with Zoo and P. How you fellas doing?
I'm doing well, man. Just got some great sleep Sunday night watching that NBA All-Star game, man. I'll say it put me right to sleep. I know we're going to talk about it, but, man, you can just – all you got to do is look at the ratings, man. The highest ratings were Steph Curry and Sabrina playing that three-point contest. Everything else down on the bottom slope, man. So I know we're talking about what Adam Silver might need to do, but he's got to do something. He always comes up with something. I'll give him credit, but he needs to revitalize this All-Star weekend.
Yeah, not gonna lie. First quarter, I started watching for the first quarter. I was mildly entertained for the first couple of minutes.
Yep.
Haliburton splashed a couple of threes, but second quarter, I dozed off. I woke up in the fourth quarter, very confused in my bed, just passed out, man. Because geez, and I looked at the score. I'm like, okay, this makes sense why I passed out. The game was a hard watch. It wasn't like this is like I like people say this is like this is not real basketball. This is not real basketball that we watch. Like absolute. Like it's not the same game. So good luck, Adam Silver, man. This is why you're commissioner, man. You're here to find solutions. Like we got problems right now, and you got to find a solution for this because it's been an issue for I would say the last couple of years.
This is why he gets paid the big bucks. I will give Adam Silver credit. He is pretty good at being innovative, and I think that's more so out of necessity because of just how the NFL is kind of on the low, taking the entire calendar. And Adam's having to be more innovative with the in-season tournament, the play-in tournament, different facets of the NBA game. He's trying to improve. And, I will give him kudos because I, at the beginning, didn't really like the play-in. And then I actually watched it a couple of times like, hey, this is pretty cool. And I like how the urgency is ratcheted up for – I mean, it is the playoffs, but I'm just saying to get into the playoffs, you're ratcheting up your energy. So, we're going to start with the NBA All-Star weekend as a whole. I wanted to ask the guys, what are maybe some things you could see as an improvement, or is it just something that you could probably say with a lot of the All-Star games and all the four major sports, it's just something that maybe cannot be fixed? Peebles, what are some suggestions you may have?
Right. Well, I guess I'll start with the positives, man. I did like that they went back to the East-West in the main All-Star game. I didn't look LeBron picking his team, KD picking his team, whatever, they were deciding to do. Curry.
It was funny, man. 2 years ago, it was real funny with that James Harden. I still remember.
It was very funny. Yes, it was poignant and funny in that moment. But I think it does bring back a little bit of the traditional touch. The jerseys were really cool. I think kind of going back to that instead of their respective teams having like an alternate jersey that they're each wearing during the game. So I do like that they're going back to the East versus West. It just made it a lot more fun. It did seem like the West had all the old heads, though. They had Paul George, LeBron running around, and then look over on the East, and you got Haliburton, Tyrese Maxey, those guys. But so it just really depends on the conferences, right? How they're performing that year. It actually has a say in the All-Star game. So that it's just an interesting. It doesn't affect playoffs or anything like that. But I did like that change back. But man, this 3-point shooting contest, it's king now, man. It's the game. It is king of the entire weekend, in my opinion. We saw a little side thing, as I mentioned, with Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu, I believe is how you say her name. Obviously, it was the highest ratings, like I said, and they can't keep doing that every year. What are they? They're going to do what they do with Mac McClung in the dunk contest with Steph Curry and put him up against the next, Caitlin Clark next year. Or something
they already agreed to. They were asked about her returning, and she might return and might bring Caitlin Clark next year.
Yeah, well, that's good, but eventually you're going to run out of people to keep adding to that. So they got to come up with new kind of one-on ads, maybe like kind of a another type of dunk contest, whatever you want to call it. But if there's one thing I do want Adam Silver to change, man, he's got to get rid of the skills challenge, man. Zoo, you mentioned the pre-production. These guys, look, we're talking about they're running middle school drills pretty much at the professional level. They're not going to care. Can you make a bounce pass into a hoop? I mean, dude, this ain't the circus, right? So I want to see a 1v1 tournament. I'm telling you, it has to happen. I want Luka versus Trae Young, man. I want Shai Gilgeous against Haliburton. Even a 2v2 tournament would actually be kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
You had to have two guys from the same team maybe representing. instead of 3 guys in a skills challenge. I will say the Pacers tried hard, kind of at home.
Oh yeah, at home.
Yeah, they had to. But overall, man, I thought it was kind of a dismal All-Star weekend. Damian Lillard obviously took the crown in both the 3-point contest and the MVP in the game. But quietly, Karl Anthony Towns was trying hard, man. He dropped 50 in the game. If West wins that game, Karl Anthony Towns is winning that Kobe Bryant award, man, which is just ridiculous. So, yeah, man, I think that just the skills challenge, scrapping that thing or making it completely different, I don't know what they need to do. They'll never change a celebrity game. It just brings big names around. And they'll never change the 3-point dunk contest. They're staples. They can change all the rules that they want to in the All-Star game to try and make it more competitive. But I think they just have to come up with another gameplay event on Saturday. And I think that's just replacing the skills challenge with a 1v1 or a 2v2. It'd be awesome to watch some of these guys play as if they're after practice running 1v1s. So,
yeah, I absolutely agree, man. Like, the skills challenge, I remember years ago, when it was just one guy out there going through the drills. And I remember my boy D-Rose winning it. And it was actually somewhat competitive. I kind of liked it. I kind of like he ended with a dunk. They're actually trying. Like, you actually saw guys trying to go full speed, trying to, like, it was competitive because they had superstars in it. They had Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, like Steve Nash. Like, this is back in the day. Like, they were actually trying. And I see this, and I love Ant-Man, but man, when that guy started shooting left-handed, I'm like, and it was like ugly too. If you saw the form, it was an ugly left-hand. It was like, oh, he actually looked he looked awful. Like, I think it was like off the back, like that was embarrassing. That's just right up embarrassing. My dude, Scotty Barnes, this guy in the All-Star turn, like I believe he was also in the skills tournament a couple of years back when he couldn't make a floater. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
He had like these point blank buddies, and he kept missing like little teardrop. I remember Scotty Barnes. He, like, I don't know. This guy, not gonna lie, he kind of a choke artist, man. When the lights get bright, man, he starts to get a little nervous, and he starts missing like bunnies, and he just looks not good at all. Even though he's a pretty good basketball player, but when it's All-Star stage, man, his skills start to deteriorate. Like dribbling off your foot, like it's middle school basketball practice. It is embarrassing. It is absolute embarrassing. Like Scotty Buddy's like laughing, goofing. Man, this is an embarrassment. This is the skills challenge. Not gonna lie. Like he looked like Thanasis out there, man. I still remember when Thanasis.
Oh man, I remember that.
The Antetokounmpo brothers as like a trio was consistently in the All-Star game, and you see Thanasis shoot jump shots. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy got
it's pretty bad.
Dude, like his brother, like he ain't called Thanasis. He's Giannis's brother, man, because that's all he is. Because Giannis's brother got this guy full-time Milwaukee Bucks employment for the rest of his career because he's his guy.
You know what he became? He was what LeVar Ball was hoping LiAngelo Ball was going to be, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if Lonzo Ball turned out to be freaking Jason Kidd or whatever, like maybe even Tyrese Halliburton, like he might have been able to get his brother a spot. Like that's what happens because, Jesus Christ, like that guy is one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen. And not gonna lie, that skills challenge has been abysmal for years. Like for years. Like it just makes the basketball players look unskilled. Like I see people bricking, like missing layups, missing floaters, missing open threes, missing free throw jump shots. I remember Tyrese Maxey like choked at the just shooting jump shots. I'm like, what is going on? This skills challenge is just so embarrassing. And I know you mentioned the 1-on-1 or a 2-on-2 or even a 3-on-3 like type thing. And I just feel like, why hasn't this been done? And I feel like the NBA players are just too prideful and don't want to get embarrassed. Embarrassed on the stage.
That's why it'll never happen, unfortunately.
Imagine like you play Kyrie Irving and that dude crosses you over, you're on the floor, and then he just like lays it on you. I just feel like I know these guys are
defense.
Exactly. Like they don't want to get embarrassed. I think that's the biggest reason. They don't want to get embarrassed. And with social media now, if you get destroyed like that, you're gonna get clowned down for probably the rest of your life.
You're gonna get Brandon Knighted,
Exactly. Imagine if you get like posterized by like my Ant-Man just like posterized. So I'm like, man, they don't want none of the smoke, which I'm kind of sad because like this would be an event that everybody would want to see.
I would watch that.
And we already saw a little preview of this. This is years ago back in the Olympics when people were running 1-on-1 after practice, and you see like King of the Hill style. I remember Paul George, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, all the top elite guys. And people were watching that video and like, this is awesome. Because you see people's go-to moves, what moves they like, and just elite skill basketball. And that's all we want to see. We want to see stars compete against stars and actually trying and seeing like who's got that skill set, be like, I'm that guy. And I feel like this is the pride of the NBA guys that like won't allow this to happen and too cool to school, like not trying the All-Star game, like all that stuff. I'm just very annoyed because they always like, oh, I don't know what we can do. I'm like, you're in the freaking All-Star game. Yo, shut up. What do you mean? Like, I don't know what to do. You're playing the game, man. Yeah. And I love my boy Luka, but that guy shot a ball from the other side of the court. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, that's like me accidentally pressing the wrong button in NBA 2K, man. That's pretty much what happened. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's an absolute joke.
By the rim?
Yeah. He tried to go really for a dunk. Like, it's an absolute joke. Like, Luka Doncic, here's the easy bet for you guys. Every year, man, Luka under on points because the dude does not try. He does not try in the All-Star game. He's gotten like 7 points like every single year. Like him, and I love my boy Jokic. He does not try either. He does not try either. So like, I feel
they don't care.
They don't care because like one thing they did say is like, why would I try on offense if nobody's trying on defense? I remember, I believe that Lucas said that. So I'm like, oh, interesting. Yeah, it's true. Like that is true. Like why are you trying on offense? Yeah. Oh, can't want that trophy. Can't want that trophy. So I'm like,
that trophy bad.
Yeah. So I'm like, that All-Star game, like giving up 200 points, zero defense. Like they're gonna definitely try to find a solution. And I think the solution has to be an incentive. It has to be a real incentive.
Yeah, there's got to be something.
There's like one exactly. My first thought is money because the play-in tournament incentive was money, and it kind of worked the first year. Like everyone was trying a little harder in these in the mid-season tournament games. So money comes up in mind, and then second one is you get home court advantage in the finals. In the conference.
Like the MLB rule.
Yeah. Exactly. Copy the MLB rule, and then you're going to put in the guys, pretty much, you're going to put in the guys that have a legitimate chance of making the NBA Finals, because those guys at the end of games are the most incentivized of winning the game if they have a realistic option. So putting your best guys in the fourth quarter and try to win this thing. So I think those are potential solutions to fix it. But yeah, Adam Silver, man, this is why you get to pay the big bucks. So try to fix this situation. Try to fix it.
I never thought Zoo would propose an MLB change into the NBA, man. I never thought I'd hear that.
Growth. It's growth.
This is growth right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is honestly life growth for Zoo.
I will say with the MLB type style with using the finals as an incentive, like home court advantage, that'll work until the team that didn't win or side that didn't win ends up getting into the finals, and they feel like, you know, say a call happens in a game 6 and they're the team that got the, I guess, whatever advantage. And then a call happens in game 6, the team feels like it was suspect. And then now, because they didn't have home court advantage, they got to go on the road and they lose that game 7, even though it won't really be any truth or merit to it. They're going to use that as a crux. Like, well, you know, the All-Star game, they're going to be like, you know, listen, man, we this game we don't care about. We're terminating the final. It's going to be a huge talking point. And I don't know if Adam Silver would do that, even though I think that would probably be the closest way to get people to play competitive. The East and West, I think, was a huge thing because of just like it's naturally been that way, and I like it. Somebody brought up the point, because I don't want to take credit for it, but international versus America, because I think you would really get a super, super competitive side. Competitive game with America, because I think they would have the chance to be embarrassed by the international squad if that were to happen. So I think even if the international squad didn't play hard, they could still beat the American squad right now constructed pretty well. I think that would make America play better.
Jokic, Embiid, Luka, Wemby.
Yeah.
I mean,
they could embarrass them if they didn't play. Like they could play their B- game and embarrass the American squad. And I think that would incentivize the American squad to play hard, because, you know, as much as they would probably be like they don't care, it would feel a way if like the international squad, since this is an American game, came in and like beat you. That would be a problem.
Olympic vibe. Yeah.
But I almost wonder too, and I've kind of had this thought process over the last maybe 2 or 3 years. Is this All-Star game for us? And this is why I say that. I was at this was last year. Not so much this year, because this year I was kind of in and out watching the game, because like I said, it wasn't really anything interesting going on in the skills challenge, and the All-Star game, you know, it is what it is. But I noticed this last year. I kind of wonder, is it an age gap thing? Like, not saying we're like 40, 50 and we were raised watching 80s and 70s basketball, but
this is interesting.
I remember specifically being at a house last year, and there were a couple teenage dudes there, and there were like a bunch of kids running around. And they were a couple of my cousins, but I saw that it dunk contest, the All-Star game, they were just so reactive to seeing their favorite players just make long 3-point shots and make dunks. And even though like Mac McClung, we know he's a G League player and he's not actually a person who's in the NBA making an impact or even on the roster. But they knew him from like high school dunks, mixtapes, things of that nature. So they were more familiar with him. I wonder if it's just now, and this is just kind of an overall point with all the All-Star games. Like you see how the NFL just went to kind of more of a skills thing and like Pro Bowl and playing around like, flag football, whatever. Is it just an age gap thing? I think this game, and maybe Adam Silver thinks this. I don't know. I'm not in his head, but like maybe he thinks this is geared towards younger kids. Because if you do look at the NBA, it's more of a social digital type of sport. So like a lot of the people who are on these apps are kids who are like college age kids that are in high school, kids that are young. They're the ones buying the jersey. I'm not saying adults don't buy jerseys, but like they're the ones buying all the memorabilia. They're into that stuff. And like if you look at any NBA account, I feel like they're the best run account out of all of the like 4 major sports because of just like how you can clip up a dunk or an assist or like any type of steal. Like you can just make that and it looks cooler on social media. I just feel like it's more of a younger trending type of game. So I don't know, like for us and how we're looking at it, yeah, we want more competitive basketball. And I'm pretty sure some savvy 17, 18-year-old kids or kids that are freshmen in high school are probably like, God, these guys are not playing hard. But a lot of these guys are just enamored. And there's girls. So I wanted to say guys, girls too, who are in high school and watching the sports. They just, like you said, there's just being on social media, the amount of attention I saw Dame's shot get in terms of like him making the half court shots. Oh yeah. It was, because I like to look at comments and see what people were saying. And they were all just like, oh my God. And you could just tell if you just click on their profile, this kid's 13 and Minnesota and he's freaking got on a Karl Anthony Towns jersey. Like he's just a sicko fan for the Timberwolves and he's like, he knows he's got to play Dame or the Milwaukee Bucks soon. Yeah. So they're looking at it like the splash plays are really cool. And I think, because this is just my opinion, but most of the people I've seen complaining about the All-Star game have all been people like way older, and they grew up in an era, not saying we didn't grow up in this era, but like they grew up in an era where Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley, they took it serious and they did all this stuff. I think it's just more geared towards the kids. And to me, I can't get mad at an NBA player that's like, well, it's just like Anthony Edwards. Now, I don't agree with Anthony Edwards when he said, oh man, it's All-Star break. We got to be resting. It's like you do have an obligation if you're out there. You got to play. You got to play.
That was terrible.
But I do think that a lot too with it starting on Thursday, I think with like the media, I think it's a lot of obligations too for the players because this weekend I feel like it's way different than like the NFL weekend and NHL weekend. The NBA All-Star Weekend is a super event. Like it's like basically like a Super Bowl week.
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say
it's pretty much like a Super Bowl week.
There's Super Bowl when like every media comes into one city and they're the main attraction.
And two, I've always said this, and people don't like to hear, but it's the truth. It's the culture of the NBA. The NBA culture promotes the party, the lifestyle. The guys are not really. To your point, if there was an incentive, like how Zeus said, if there was a massive incentive, because it has to be massive. It can't even be just a nice little inducement because all these guys that are an all-star, for the most part, unless you're like a rookie, like you're getting paid pretty well. So like it has to be a massive incentive. And I think with the finals, like how Zeus said, maybe if you use the finals as an incentive, I don't know. I think to me, I would like to see that because you really would get a super competitive game. But then again, depending on the coach that's coming in, like to Drew's point, he's saying like, hey, maybe they'll play the guys that's going to actually be in the playoffs. Like, but what if during, the time before that in the fourth quarter, the people that you got out there playing are not playing as hard and they let a league get so big that once you play the real starters in the fourth quarter or the people that may be in the finals potentially, they can't come back from it. So then it's just like it's altered. So I almost feel like with this game, it's like, I don't think there's really
they're in no man's land.
They're kind of numbers because you're to a point, the 1v1, that is never happening. The 2v2 is never happening. Nobody wants their ego crushed. They just don't. And as much as the fans want to see it, it's easy for us to say that because we ain't out there getting embarrassed in front of a bunch of people. But if somebody, like you said, Kyrie made a cross, that could really, and people will be like, well, it's just you make a bunch of money, so it doesn't matter. Like, no, these guys have fragile egos. It's just the reality. So if that were to actually happen, and then the next day the residual effects of that, it's going to be like, it's probably some phone calls made to Adam Silver, like, man, we're not doing this no more. Like, I'm getting destroyed. Like, there's guys, like, it could be a guy that got crossed and he's in the finals and he's averaging a bunch of points. But as soon as he, like, puts up a photo of, like, look, just had 15 points in the finals, there's going to be a million bots saying, but who cares? You got crossed by Kyrie on All-Star Weekend, dummy. Yeah. Like, they don't want to go through that. They're already going through a bunch of that crap. So, like, I think that the players would not sign off on that. So it's kind of like, to me, I just don't get as worked up as I used to. Like, before, like, like, probably, I want to say, like, 27, like maybe when, rest in peace, Kobe, but like maybe when he was alive, it was a little bit of competition and it's like, okay, I like that. But now it is what it is. I don't know if there's any massive solution. And I don't think this is the NBA problem. You see, the NFL got rid of the game with the physical game because they made a mockery of it. Respect to hockey. I don't watch that All-Star game. MLB, I'll watch the home run derby.
They tried.
Like, I'll watch that one, but like, you know, because they have an incentive to it. But let's be honest, who the hell is really watching baseball? The two All-Star games we really care about is football and basketball. And for the most part, they've kind of made a mockery of it. So I just like, to me, I just look at it as like, okay, it's just stars out there running around. I don't get too worked up about it because being honest with the NBA, I really only care about the playoffs. Like, I'll watch games because there's interesting games that come on Saturday, Sunday, but same thing with March Madness to a lesser extent. Like, I'll probably watch more NBA games, but like, same thing with college basketball. March Madness, wake me up. Wake me up when it's March. Same thing with NBA basketball. Like, I'll monitor and be diligent and see who's doing what because that's part of like what I'm doing on this podcast. But like, wake me up when it's April. Yep. I think the All-Star thing is just a bump. And to me, the players, and I love LeBron, but like LeBron, when he didn't do that dunk contest the first time, he kind of made it like, I ain't want to do that. I ain't Michael. Y'all not gonna make me do it because Michael did it. So what? And then when he said that, everybody else said, LeBron ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. And it's just kind of like a trickle effect. Because now we got, like you said, respect to Mac McClung, but come on. Like, how do we have someone who's in the G League being a two-time NBA champion? That is, listen, Dominique Wilkins, who else are winners of the NBA dunk contest?
Michael
all
Jordan,
those guys are, like,
Jordan,
all those guys,
Tracy
they're not
McGrady,
dead.
Vince Carter, like
they're not dead, but they are rolling over in their bed at night. Like, Mac McClung is in the same sentence with me in terms of being a dunk champion.
I don't know, he's keeping it alive, man. He keeps it a little more watchable. Because if he was not in it, I'm sorry, Jaylen Brown dunking over a Twitch streamer.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there.
Sitting down. That, like, you got Mac McClung dunking over Shaq.
Alive.
Oh yeah. Oh my.
It's just cheesy. Like,
that was funny.
They like Ja Morant not being hurt, but see, Ja Morant, I don't think Ja Morant was ever like, yeah, I'm going to do dunk contest.
No, he said he won't do it, which is annoying because you look like this a young guy who's making his name that has that ability. He's the perfect guy to be like him and Zion. We're supposed to like be the guys to do a dunk contest type of thing. Like, these are two showmen, but like you said,
they're too worried about the party, man. It's just what it is. They're too worried about the party, and I'm not mad at it because the NBA that lifestyle has now transformed. Not saying it's always been that way, but it's transformed now into. The guys want to look cool on a sideline with the camcorder, film it. They want to do that. They want to be eyeing to see who they're going to talk to when they get out of the gym, who they're going to link up with, that's just the culture of it. To me, the All-Star game is really just a meetup. It's just a meetup of like, how are you doing? And, I don't want to this is a PG rated podcast, but it's more about the meetup and who's going to link up. That's just what it is. And honestly too, and it's the last point, I almost feel like it's more about the media. I think it's more of a media meetup and them creating contacts and, making connections and, powwows and around. I think it's more about them doing that than it's actually the game. Because if you look at it, I mean, there's so many freaking social media outlets that just talk about the game itself. But I think that's what it is more. Just them meeting up, talking about, hey, how do you want to do this? What do you want to link up for interview? It's more about that now. And now with all these player-run podcasts, all these people who are hosting these podcasts are all linking. Like, that's what it's about more. I don't think it's even about the game anymore. Like you said, we see it with the skills challenge in the NBA All-Star game. It's a mockery. And if they were to get rid of the game and just did the dunk contest and 3-point contest, I wouldn't be super mad at it. But I don't know if Adam's ever going to do that because they want inventory. Yeah, they want inventory. And I don't know what the ratings were on the All-Star game itself, but
not good.
Yeah. Maybe move it up and out. Maybe would it start at 8? Maybe move
Pretty
it up.
late.
I don't know.
It
used to be in the
started.
afternoon.
It started 40 minutes late.
Oh, it did. Like I think it's supposed to start at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I remember I waited, and it was just like them talking. I saw Reggie Miller and David Letterman talk. It was like just a bunch of random stuff, and then like it finally started legit like 40 minutes later. Like I remember, that is like that's kind of late.
That's one that's not okay, and two, that goes right to your point, Sean. Obviously, maybe not the high schoolers and stuff, but the little kids. Their parents aren't
stay up.
They ain't staying up till 12 o'clock watching an NBA game. Like,
40-year-old dad's gonna be like, I'm gonna sit down on my Sunday night and watch the NBA All-Star. No,
I didn't know it started 40 minutes. That's 40 that's a massive problem. What is that?
Yep.
The NFL could get that off. It's the same. You know what that's similar to? Like how college basketball, the final is always like at 9:10. It's like, why in the hell is it at 9 o'clock at night? Mm-hmm. Like, who's watching that at that late at night? I don't know. But I think all the All-Star games are kind of just it's now. And plus, two, players don't want to get injured, because if you play hard and get injured in an All-Star game, your team is going to be like pissed off. It's just
you just gotta try for one quarter. Like, I ain't asking for much. Just try for one quarter.
Like LeBron did basically. LeBron played what? I don't know how many minutes did he play.
LeBron old.
He's older,
tired.
But still.
Yeah, he old and tired. Like, I'm just saying, it's still possible, because we saw a couple years back. I think it was like 2020 or 2021 when the game was actually competitive and people were actually trying on defense, and it went down to the last shot. Like,
they had a target score, didn't they?
Yeah, it was the target score.
Why'd they get rid of that?
Elam ending? I don't know.
Because of it was the rule changes with the whole like drafting teams and stuff like that and all that.
They should probably bring the target score back. Maybe that helped. I forgot about that.
Because I still remember like people were taking charges, people were actually trying on defense. I still remember rewatching that. Because like I was like, this All-Star game sucks. I'm gonna watch that one. I'm like, man, people are like going ISO, like actually trying defense. I don't know. Pascal Siakam was the go-to guy. Kind of sad, but legit. I was like, okay, this is actually some pretty competitive basketball, which I enjoyed. But it's possible. But Adam Silver, man, you got to press the right button.
They're gonna need a mutual like agreement, like a 50-50. If to your point, if they want this to actually work, the players got to be bought in, and Adam Silver and them have to make it super important. And I think what it is. Yeah, and like you said, they're going to be reading that up. But see, then again, part of this new CBA agreement, when they're getting this television deal, whatever live rights deal, I wonder. I mean, if I'm just guessing, they probably spent when they're negotiating, they probably spent 2 minutes talking about the All-Star game. I don't think the advisors they care too much about it, because they kind of know what it is. They're fighting for more like how you got to have a limit to get the amount of games to get awards. Like, I think that's what they're fighting more for, and they're probably looking at the All-Star game. And Adam Silver's probably sitting on the other side of the table, is like, look, well, if you want the 65 game limit to win awards, you're not going to get my guys to play great All-Star games. You're just not. And they're like, okay, deal. Like, they don't care. They care more about how many games the players are going to play. So I think as fans, we want it, and if we want to see it happen, we have to get both sides to really be bought into it. And I just think Adam is kind of okay with it. He's probably more concerned about the celebrity game, and players are more concerned about the parties. And like you said, when you're in the NBA and you're part of that culture, that's just what you're gonna do. So hopefully we'll see going down the road that they find some different type of way to make it interesting for us, at least. But I don't have a lot of faith in that. Speaking of not having a lot of faith, there's a couple of teams in the NBA, man. I tell you, it's every year. We look and we're like, oh, well, looks like they're at the bottom of the rankings again, and it looks like they're going to be picking high in the draft again unless they trade their draft pick. But there's just certain teams that you look at and you're like, okay, nobody's saying these teams don't have talent, but we're saying that they're just not good as a team and they're not winning games, and it could be a multitude of issues. So kind of wanted to ask the guys some of the, I guess, teams you could say Detroit, Charlotte, and Portland, some of the teams that are kind of, and not saying, they could turn around and go on a crazy run and make the play-in, but we're just saying right now they're franchises that's kind of stuck in neutral. And I kind of want to ask the guys, which franchise would they take and why? And Zoo, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Man, for me, these are some sad franchises, man. These are sad franchises. Like, shout out to Toronto Masai Ujiri for getting it done that 1 year with Kawhi Leonard, but that history of winning is not there either. For me, I'm going to a franchise that historically just has not drafted well. It's like one of the worst drafting. I'm not gonna name the team yet. I'm just going to go through their draft history. Okay, let's go.
Yeah,
2020,
well,
Killian Hayes with the 7th overall pick recently got waived.
Massive.
Imagine
massive
waiving
bust.
a top 10 pick.
That's incredible.
Just imagine that. Waiving the top 10 pick. Year before that, Sekou Doumbouya, 15th overall pick. Jesus Christ. Before that, second rounder, whatever. Luke Kennard before that. Luke Kennard, man. Had a lot of good players, but they took Luke Kennard. Before that, Henry Ellenson. You guys remember Henry Ellenson out of Marquette?
Marquette.
It's supposed to be a stretch 4 guy. Didn't really turn out well. The year before that, Stanley Johnson with the 8th overall pick, man. It's supposed to be a two-way wing. Stanley Johnson. Nope. Okay, no. Okay, so before that, no first rounder, and then boom, they had KCP back in 2013. So you had a stretch from 2014 all the way to 2020, just consistently in the lottery and just being completely mediocre for pretty much the entire decade, man. This is the post-Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. These are the Detroit Pistons. They had a rough stretch in that decade, man, with draft picks. But recently, they hit on some picks, man. I'm like, Cade Cunningham, first overall. I think he's going to be a great player. Right now, he just has injury issues. Jaden Ivey, who I really like as a combo guard. Like the coach don't like him for some reason. Not sure why. Monty Williams is a different story. But Jaden Ivey is a nice combo guard who can get buckets. And I like Ausar Thompson as a more of a defensive player, zero offense. This guy's strictly a defensive player. And, like, I forgot one more. The center. Remind me of the center.
Duren.
Yeah, Jalen Duren. I'm a big fan of Jalen Duren as a lob threat, rim protector. This guy's getting 15 and 10, and this dude's like 20 years old with the man's body. So right now, you got some foundational pieces right now. Like, after a decade of worthlessness, these last 5 years, they have actually been building something with some foundational pieces, and they shouldn't panic. They shouldn't rebuild, even though the record they started out real awful, man. They were on pace to be one of the worst NBA teams of all time, and I just didn't think they were that bad. They were just losing a lot of close games, and right now, like, they're on pace to be the worst team in the NBA, but not historically bad. Like, at least they got 8 wins. Like, at least they got 8 wins. Like, they're up there. They're down there with the Wizards. Yeah, they're down there with the Wizards. There's only one game between last place and the Washington Wizards right now. So, like, the Detroit Pistons, they should have hope because Cade Cunningham, Ivey, and Duren, that's a solid foundation.
It's a nice trio.
That's a solid young foundation because I think the pieces fit too. They all have specific roles as Cade the playmaker, Ivey the scorer, Duren the rim protector, and rim runner. So they have these foundational pieces that just fit in the modern NBA. Like it just fit. And I'm just like, okay, I could see a future where I would say maybe in 2 years or 3 years, they could take that, aka OKC jump that 1 year when they became like a 40-win team. That last year jump became just like from an awful team winning 20 games to like a 40-win team. So make that jump in 2 years. So I feel like in the Eastern Conference right now, where I'm not gonna lie, the Eastern Conference, I'm sorry, it's just not that impressive. Like all the teams are, I would say, bunched all in the middle outside of like the Boston Celtics, who have proved themselves. We're the best regular season team right now. But outside of that, nobody really showing out in the Eastern Conference, and you could easily be a top 10 seed and make the play-in tournament and try to make in the playoffs that way. Yeah. So I see like they got the foundation. Monty Williams, I got some questions about Monty Williams. Like this guy,
got a massive contract.
He got the biggest contract before Eric Spoelstra. Before Eric Spoelstra got that bag, Monty Williams had the highest paying contract in the NBA. Like, good thing that doesn't count against the cap or whatever. So okay, he can get whatever his money. But like, I question his coaching sometimes. Like, he had a nice little stunt with the Phoenix Suns, but I feel like that was more CP3 than Monty Williams. That's all I got to say. CP3's impact as having a coach on the floor, I feel like CP3's impact was way more than Monty Williams. Like, so Monty Williams a little suspect. Oh, yeah, they can use him, man. Every team can use a CP3, man. Every team can use a CP3.
He might actually be a great coach, actually.
Yeah,
he might be a great coach.
Yeah, CP3 is an elite leader. So, but I'm looking at the foundational pieces. The recent draft history has been a lot better. So right now for me, that core, they're young. They develop together in that phase of you got to lose. You're going to have these 20 and 30 win seasons. But when they hit their prime, add some foundational complementary wing players because that's what they're missing. They're missing that 3-and-D wing to complement Cade and Ivey. I feel like this team will be legit in a couple of years. So for
maybe
me,
Asar,
it's
maybe
a
he
Detroit.
gets there.
Yeah, Asar, he needs to learn how to shoot.
It's
He
gonna
needs to learn how to shoot.
It's gonna take some time, but maybe
he definitely needs to learn how to shoot. But they get that complimentary 3-and-D wing. That's like the piece that connects everyone, the glue guy to connect all these pieces together. So for me, I love the pieces and I love how they fit.
I think Alistair Thompson needs to take the Anunoby track, kind of develop that jump shot. If he can, that'd be great. If it doesn't work out, it's not like, to your point, Zoo, they've hit on 3 pretty big draft picks, especially with the Jalen Duran one, man. I mean, that was nice. That was a nice pick. I was seeing, I think he averages like 15 a game too, like rim runner,
he's young,
offensive boards. He's really young.
Yep.
6'10". You could call it maybe a little undersized for the centers.
I don't know. Modern NBA, like 6'10" is all you need.
6'10" is all you need, but I'm just saying to guard, if let's say they were to become a very good team, he would have to go against the Giannis's and Embiid's if they are still healthy and Jokic, across conferences. But Zoo, I do agree with you overall. I'll make an argument for another team. I would personally take the Pistons. I just love their backcourt. I think it's just ideal. At first, I had concerns about their abilities to have chemistry just because they can be both very ball dominant. They were clearly their number one options in college, respectively. I mean, Zoo, you had Jaden Ivey going potentially first overall that year. You liked him.
I love Jaden Ivey that draft. I loved him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it led you down the Purdue path, though, Zoo. Which sorry about that, March Madness. But maybe he'll pay maybe he'll pay dividends to the Pistons, and he seems to be. They just need to get healthy, and I think they have like no veterans. Like they don't.
They shipped out
Bogdanovich.
They shipped out Bogdanovich.
Who was averaging like 20 a game.
20 points. Yep.
Yeah. And, so I'm going to make an argument. I'm not touching the Hornets, man. I'm sorry.
That organization I agree with you 100%.
I'm actually going to argue a little bit for the Raptors. Sorry, Sean. I know it's the closest one for you, but I'm gonna argue the Raptors. I really like I like the moves that like Ujiri pulled off this year. I think Siakam and Anunoby, they were both great players. Siakam's been a multi-year All-Star. I wouldn't call him perennial, but he is an All-Star. Timing that trade and sending them to teams that are giving them solid capital back was huge. I mean, he's a guy that's not afraid to take risks. I mean, he did it with Kawhi Leonard, got him a championship, right? We've seen him have some great drafting. I mean, the Anunoby pick, a very good one.
Yep.
I mean, he drafted all the way back to, I think he picked DeMar DeRozan, right? Did he draft Kyle Lowry too? I mean, some of these guys, DeMar DeRozan, Fred VanVleet. I know you don't like him that much too, but he's a good NBA player.
Yeah, he's shooting from the field, less than 40.
There you go. There you go. That's what happens when I'm in Houston. But but man, I like RJ Barrett. I think he's a good player. I think it was actually probably pretty hard for the Knicks to give him up. Obviously, they have Brunson, so they had the ability to fill it in. But I do think that he was a young piece that they thought was going to be there for a while. So the fact that they have him paired up with Scotty Barnes, I like their 2 to 3 pushing a power forward level. They just desperately need point guard play. You can clearly see that they miss Kyle Lowry, obviously from years past, not current day Kyle Lowry. Even Fred VanVleet was able to move that offense around with Kawhi Leonard. So if they can get something going with Scotty Barnes's shooting confidence and ability, this guy could end up being really good if he stops dribbling off his foot, to Zoo's point in the earlier segment. I think he needs to just kind of rein it in a little bit. He's very raw. We talked about this from when he was drafted. His ceiling is pretty damn high, in my opinion. But I have faith in Ujiri's drafting strategy. And I believe they got a couple of extra first round picks.
Yeah,
they have 2 first round picks next year. It's not nearly as stacked of a draft that we saw this past year with the Wembanyama saga. But, that they have a lot of capital. And I trust the best ownership group out of all 3, even though the Pistons have made some good draft picks.
No, it's by far Toronto's.
Yeah.
I am taking the track record of Masai Ujiri and the Raptors if I'm not going with the Pistons. I mean, I do think the Pistons have the most talent right now, but I think the Raptors usually have the better vision for an entire team. So I think I'm pretty torn on these two. But I still will lean the Pistons a little way just because they're a bit further along in the process and not fully entering the rebuild as of this year.
Gun to my head, I probably would make this a sweep with the Pistons. I have my arguments for the Hornets, but the Pistons, like you said, you got to really, I guess one could argue out of all these guys, like if you say these 3 teams, I guess the top two would probably be Cade and Scotty in terms of like which guys, if you had to just pick one, who would you pick out of those two? So to me, some people would lean Cade, some people would lean Scotty, but those are the two guys. But then, like you say, after that with Toronto, you have some other okay pieces. But like, Duran, however you say it, is going to be a really, really massive piece for them going forward. Ivy, to me, bona fide scorer. I just feel like he maybe needs to get more reps. And Asor, if he can take the necessary leaps to, like you said, OG Anunoby, that track, then they could be a really solid team. Because then after that, you're just adding filler all around. The only thing that maybe concerns me with Detroit is we know how the NBA is in terms of the superstars. And right now, if I'm Cade's agent, I'm like, look, bro, just say the word. We can get you out of here. Like, if he gets on a train where I want to get out of Detroit, because it's like you got Monty that he may not trust, and the roster construction is not as good. Because like you said, Bogdanovich, he was averaging 20, and he was an adult. So like you said, there's no adults on that team. So I wonder if Cade starts looking around and is like, I kind of want to get to a new situation. That could kind of crumble that whole Detroit situation. So that's one thing I would be looking, out for. Not saying it's going to happen, but that could technically happen. But I would say the reason why I looked at Charlotte as something that I'm kind of intrigued by is Brandon Miller. He was definitely looked at as the number 2 guy coming into the draft.
Yep.
Everybody was on Scoot. Everybody was saying Scoot should be the guy drafted over Brandon Miller. It was a lot of, his highlights with G League. Scoot Henderson was going against Wembanyama and going to, pretty much taking it to him in terms of like just being physical and scoring, doing all kind of layups and things of that nature. And people were like, yeah, Scoot's the one. And, Scoot's got time, but we've kind of seen this. It's just in a maturation process. He has to continue to learn how to be a guard in the NBA. But with Brandon Miller, he just has what you need in a forward. He is a scorer. He can get his own shot. Like bringing up his stats right here, 16 points. But the most impressive thing is he's shooting 38% from 3. Like, that's going to work. That's just going to work. Now, with a lot of these players, like, percentages fluctuate. But if he can stay somewhere around there and up that scoring average, because it's kind of pretty much established that he's the number 2 guy, that is an intriguing thing, because like I've always said with this league, and as much as Scoot Henderson got hyped, I mean, for me, I was on that train a little bit because he was just so dynamic. And with this league and how it's set up, dynamic guards are really fun to just cover and get behind, because it's like you just like that, like a Russell Westbrook type of guard. We just like those type of people. We like seeing those type of players play. But this league is a wing league. It's a 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 6'7" league. It's been proven over and over and over. And when you got guys, even though in this league it's a whole lot easier to score, trust me, it's been proven. But with a guy like Brandon Miller, man, his ability right now as a rookie to score at that pace, I like it. And, LaMelo, everybody's, it's kind of like how LeBron, you're either in a LaMelo camp or you're not. And LaMelo, part of his bugaboo has been he's been hurt. But when he's on the floor and when he's playing, he's the perfect setup guy for a guy like Brandon Miller because of his ability to pass. I think his wherewithal in terms of knowing how to put the ball, in different pockets for Brandon to get, catch and shoot. Like I said, Brandon Miller has a really quick release. That could be a really nice dynamic duo. Man, the elephant in the room, man, Miles Bridges is a dog. He's a dog. Don't care. I mean, off the court,
I don't know. Off the court, you got
I can't defend it, and I'm not here trying to defend it. But he is a dog on the court. He can ball. Good. So, like, I wonder what his contract situation is going to be going forward, because NBA teams can say whatever they want. They don't, and this is the ugly truth, and this is just sports as a whole. This is not an NBA problem. This is just sports as a whole. If you can play, they will make room for you. So I wonder if with future assets, because I don't think they have a draft pick this year, but maybe in the next 2 years they do. Maybe something to where they sign Miles, and they might be able to get Miles because of his off the court transgressions. Might be able to get him at a lighter deal,
a discount,
to where like a manageable contract, to where maybe you can attach a pick, Miles Bridges, and maybe bring in another disgruntled star, and you're able to maybe form a nice big 3. Because I'm looking at just them as a whole. Like, who I really liked was Trey Mann they got from OKC.
Yes.
He was one of those guys that were buried on the bench, because it's so many guards and wings that are in OKC. You're not going to get to play there. You're just not. And I mean, I was just looking at some of his highlights early, like kind of like before he got to Charlotte. And I was like, this is a nice little two-way guard, not two-way guard, but like a nice scoring guard. And Mark Williams, Nick Richards, they're serviceable bigs. I don't really know what, because coming out, Mark Williams out of Duke had a lot of potential because they said he could shoot the three, and he was kind of like a at least defensive force. I don't know what's been going on with him.
Yeah.
But if they can get something out of him, because to me, for the big guy, unless you're Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, like I just need you rim running and protecting.
Yeah, rim runner.
If you can do that at a high level, that's all I really care.
Andre Drummond,
And just stay healthy. Yeah, get your rebounds. I mean, Drum is a different type.
Rebounding guy, man. He's a rebounding guy, man. I love Drum.
He's a Hall of Fame rebounder, but yeah, like if you just can do that at a serviceable level and stay healthy, you're gonna get your bag and you'll be fine. Kind of like Clint Capella, basically, if you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested in Brandon Miller, LaMelo, just those two as a whole, because like comparing them to Detroit, I mean, Cade I would take over LaMelo and Brandon Miller. But I'm not just gonna say I'll take Ivy over LaMelo or Brandon Miller. Like then like you say, the drop from I think Cade and LaMelo, Cade is better, but it ain't like a crazy drop off. But I think Brandon Miller could reach a whole different level than Jay.
Oh yeah, Brandon Miller, because he's
like
big. He's 6'7", long, lanky. Yeah. He could be like one of those quick. He has like that
better Buddy Hield.
Oh, he's way taller. He's gonna be way better than Buddy Hield. I feel like he could be like a Brandon Ingram, Jason Tatum light type of like
poor man Paul George.
Poor man's version.
Be a poor man
that's
Paul
his
George.
style. Because even the way he plays,
defense, so Paul George can guard, but
even the way he plays is very similar. I would just say to like Brandon Ingram's like type of game, more of like a ball handling guy. He can do a little of everything. Yeah. So he's very good.
So I kind of think to myself, like those two upside, like I said, a lot of it's with LaMelo if he can stay healthy. And two, let's just say if it goes worse to worse, and LaMelo's like, I want to get out of here because I don't want to be anyone. I want to be at another market. Then, it wouldn't be crazy if Brandon Miller became the star of that team. And then whatever they got back from LaMelo Ball comes in a trade and they're kind of like the number 2 or number 3 along with Miles Bridges on a discount. Like I could definitely see Brandon Miller being comfortable being the number 1 guy on the franchise or being the number 2 with LaMelo. So I just kind of like the combination of those two upside. Like I said, again, if LaMelo can stay healthy, more so than like Cade and Jaden Ivey, because Jaden Ivey was a dog in college, and I get it. Monty Williams is not playing him, but it's almost the kind of thing I can make the argument with Charlotte. Like, there's questions about the head coach in Detroit. There's questions about the head coach in Charlotte. Like, you're bringing back a retread who was a 500 coach, and now he's under 500 when you brought him back. It's like, and maybe that speaks to nobody wants a Charlotte job. Who knows? But it's just like, maybe if you get a real coach in there that's got a little bit of moxie and can maybe get LaMelo and Brandon Miller playing above their head, like maybe that makes that job more attractive or that franchise more attractive. And that's just how I look at it. I think those top two, and nothing to Toronto. I just think they really need a bona fide number 2. I love Scotty, but he's going to need another 3-and-D wing because I can't remember the guy that drafted the white guy from Kansas, but
Grady Dick.
The guy that he was like the but he was like the small forward that was gunning in Kansas, and he's kind of had a tough go of it right now. But maybe he grows into it. Like I said, with these rookies, you never know how they'll grow up from year 1 to year 2. But just trying to show a little love to Charlotte, and it's been a dumpster fire. Like
they got a lot of knuckleheads. They got a lot of knuckleheads.
A lot of young kids too. Yeah, it's a lot of. Yeah, I don't want to speak back on anybody, but
they're struggling across all sports right now.
No, it's a listen. When you got David Tepper as one of your owners who's throwing drinks on fans, like you said, Michael Jordan just kind of quietly just eased out of position, like he had nothing to do with it.
He's about to quit being an owner.
Yeah,
not fun anymore.
You got a lot of dysfunction in terms of what's going on in Charlotte sports. So, I honestly feel like in terms of which one's higher, I don't think the basketball team has more of a brighter future because the NFL team, I just don't see it with Bryce. I don't see it with Bryce, and they have no receivers. Nope. I mean, they always have a solid defense, but it just
and they don't have a draft
star power. Yeah, they don't. I wonder how, but a little highway robbery from the Bears.
Yeah, long time heist.
Yeah, so. I don't know. We'll see what a lot of these teams. And this is no shot at these particular 3 teams, but it's just something I was looking at because there's other teams in the league that are just as bad. But I may say
someone like the Spurs, they have a brighter future because they have Wembanyama, and you guys that the teams that I named, they don't. So if you feel a way about that, it's just the truth. They got one of the, I mean, I don't want to call him all-time great, but he's a unicorn. So we're going to see as his NBA season winds down after the All-Star break, they start positioning for the play-in and the playoffs. You're going to be getting a whole lot more talk from us about that. And like you said, if you guys have any suggestions, make sure you put them in the suggestion box on the podcast app. They have the question box on there. So if you have anything about the podcast you want to talk about, or maybe we should mention, just put something in there. Like you said, we're on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, with their podcasting app. We are also on Tyson Talks, which is the Instagram, TikTok. Quantrill Knows is the YouTube. Make sure if you're on the YouTube to like and share so we can get into algorithms and people can see debates like this on their feed. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are out.